What's the most cringeworthy way someone has tried to show they are quirky or different? Story 1. I had a coworker in a retail environment who was always going on to us about how special he was and how he saw the world differently than the rest of us slobs. Because he was a writer, customer with a lazy eye comes up to the register. Coworker to customer, hey, I see you've got a lazy eye. I notice things like that because I'm a writer. Super awkward checkout ensued. Story 2. A post I made about a girl who fakes sneezes when she walks outside blew up recently. She found out only 25 of people sneeze when they see bright sunlight, so she wanted to be part of a minority. Edit guys, I have no idea why she does this, but her fake sneeze is this loud, rough, manly-sounding thing. It's comical how different it is to her real sneeze. Edit 2. All of that 25 use Reddit. Story 3. This guy in my high school would wear cat ears and carry a stuffed bunny around. I think he was trying to look like an anime character or something. Anyway, the most cringeworthy part, he would constantly meow in class. Not like meow, but nya, like an anime cat or whatever. Story 4. She brought a ukulele everywhere. At first you'd think, wow, a cute girl with a ukulele. I bet she's really cool, but you'd be falling in her trap. She barely knew 2 chords and was a complete jack. Story 5. Head wore a paper crisp-eye cream sailor hat every day. I saw bullies rip his hat to shreds, and Head just reach into his roller backpack and pull out another. Never saw him without it. Story 6. A girl I used to hang out occasionally liked to pretend that she was some sort of bad biker. She'd talk about riding every chance she got, show people pictures and dress the part. I would always hit her up when I was going riding to see if she wanted to come along. It gets old being the only woman around. She'd always have an excuse, claim not to ride if it had rained that week, and so on and so forth. Would always give me about getting on a real bike. I ride a CRB 1000RR. She had an 883 Sportster. She was once complaining to me that she only got her baby out 3 times that year. You base your entire identity on something you do 3 times a year. Anybody who wears those normal people scare me shirts, geez. Story 7. I knew a girl in high school who used to diagnose herself with mental illness based on, to the best of my knowledge, year 11 psychology class and online quizzes. She would also try to one-up anyone who had a legitimate, medically diagnosed mental illness. Despite having, in her words, major depression, anxiety, OCD, bulimia, Munchausen's, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and antisocial personality disorder, she refused point-blank to ever see a doctor and have any one of these diagnoses confirmed or treated. Story 8. Had a class with a guy that wanted people to think he was a nerd. I guessed to him nerds wear large glasses. Only problem was he didn't need glasses. He started showing up to class wearing 3D glass from the movie theater with the lenses popped out. Story 9. This one guy would put blue Powerade in a Windex bottle and spend the day taking it out of his backpack and squirting in his mouth. High school. There were plenty of other things, but this one stands out. Story 10. About 10 years ago, around 2009 or 2010 or so, I'm into some pretty underground obscure music. Oh really, that's cool. What kind of bands? Korn, Avenged Sevenfold, Metallica, what? I'm convinced some teenagers go out of their way to feel persecuted so they can find an identity to call their own. Because, good God, that was almost as funny as the one girl who seriously, unironically claimed that the Offspring and Green Day red jumpsuit apparatus were hardcore. Story 11. Anytime I hear the words "I'm not like other girls" exit someone's mouth, my eyes roll back into my head. So far, my irises pop back out the bottom. Like, I'm a woman. The best part about women is how varied we are. We are all different. It's awesome. But I can be different from the lady next to me without shitting all over everything she likes. Story 12. This girl I know constantly talks up how much she loves nerdy things no other girl is into. Nerdy things like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings. Yep, very unpopular entertainment no other girl is into. Edit, sorry. She also likes Harry Potter. Anyone ever heard of it? Story 13. Bumper stickers. Lots and lots of bumper stickers. If I see more than 2 to 3 on a car, like, okay, you support a political candidate and love your Doberman, cool. I just assume the person driving it is insufferable. If they're that insistent on showing their opinions in public to strangers, imagine how they are privately. I once saw a car with so many bumper stickers it covered their entire trunk and back window. Not sure how that's not illegal, but either way I was embarrassed for them. Story 14. People that repost those cringy I'm just honest multiple times a day to Facebook while reaffirming the post in the text comment above, saying how much the post is yep. So me, bahaha, cringe. Story 15. I'm acquainted with someone who will pack her cat in a carrier, drive to the local university, no small feat considering the parking situation and 40K students, and push the cat around the quad in an antique baby carriage. All the while she'll make exasperated social media posts about how rude people are to stare at or talk to her. As far as I know, she doesn't walk the cat around her own quiet residential area. Story 16, granted, this was in first grade, so you can maybe give the little kid some leeway on what's cringy, but I still remember it clearly. He said, apropos of nothing, want to see something funny, to a group of about 3 of us, including myself. Then he suddenly flopped backwards onto the floor and wriggled about furiously on the carpet like a freshly flipped over cockroach for several seconds. Story 17, every storytime animator on YouTube ever. They try to have this, I'm an awesome introvert who's a good person, but also extroverted when I talk personality that ends up coming off as insincere. Story 18, the dysfunctional veteran gear. I hate that so much, typically worn by a guy that maybe got through basic before they were separated or kicked out for underage drinking. You'll see guys in my classes wearing it, always talking about that has nothing to do with the class I'm taking. Meanwhile, I'm just thinking I get it, dude bro, now SD a few, and let the professor get back to the lesson plan. Story 19, when people say that they only listen to The Greatest Showman or that the only type of music they like is The Greatest Showman one. That's not something to brag about, too. That doesn't make you special. A lot of people like that movie. Story 20, I knew a girl who wanted to be a manic pixie dream girl type. After some exposure to her, I realized that meant she was flaky, had erratic behavior, and displayed some traits that implied she was mentally ill. I'm so happy she's out of my life. Edit changed word. Story 21, everyone who has now started using One Life to Live, or this OL2L, as their new YOLO life motto. Divorce your husband. OL2L, the hot Brazilian dude at work who's engaged. OL2L, going to take a OL2L. Put a pic of the coffee you were drinking in a very hipster area on Instagram. OL2L, don't use a hashtag or weird life motto to be a different kind of, you'll always be in. My ex was a one-upper and always had to play devil's advocate or bring attention to himself. He was a self-proclaimed anarchist. He carried several knives on him, only drank coffee. Claimed smoking helped his ADHD. Invalidated everything I said, just needed a vent about. Always making fun of people, rudely in public, and yelled at me for being embarrassed. Refused to get a job because he didn't want to work for the man. Was absolutely convinced the FBI would break into our house and haul us off to camps. What do you want to tell you? I worked a shitty retail job to pay for our rent. I did the grocery shopping and cooking. He used food stamps. And he used all his school money on bug-out bad gear. Oh, and the real reason he didn't drive was because his license was suspended, not because he didn't want to drive. 24-year-old me was an idiot. Story 22, I work at a Publix. 2 days ago, I saw a fat woman wearing a shirt that said, eat, sleep, cut, repeat. It's sad that this moron is treating self-harm like a joke. Story 23, advertising that the only music they listen to is classic rock. This was the last good music shtick. The music superiority angle is cringeworthy as a whole. Story 24, her name was Trinity. She said she had multiple personalities, 3 to be exact. She was lying, asked her parents. They had no clue what I was talking about. Story 25, I hate to be mean, but there was this girl in a couple of my classes in college who told the professors that she wants to be called Oracle instead of her real name. You could see the cringe in the professor's eyes and feel the awkward tension all over. Story 26, I adopted a RP accent in high school. I already had a bit of posh voice from going to elocution lessons, but I went full 19th century British aristocrat sometimes. I went to school in regional Australia too. Also bought a pocket watch to look posh. I do actually like pocket watches, but I knew why I did it. Story 27, the scene German class. The teacher, someone who escaped the DDR East Germany when she was young. The actor, an obese guy with a neck beard, skinny jeans, and pink shoes who said, oh, you're from East Germany, I'm a communist too. I'm so glad he dropped the class. Story 28, a guy all through high school wore business casual to well-dressed attire every single day to school, like dressy button-down, tucked-in shirts, sometimes ties, and had almost always be carrying a full-size black umbrella around everywhere, many times when it wasn't even raining or cloudy. Hope he has a job where he has to dress up every day, cause he's been practicing for it half his life. Story 29, I remember reading a bio on someone's MySpace, which was cringe to begin with, so am not immune, but they had black and white with the hair covering one eye, and it was like I'm so random. Cookie. How is a cookie random? I love cookies and want them in everyday conversation. Story 30, when I was 11 in Arizona, in 1997, my friend Barbara used to fake a British accent, and when we asked her about it, she said it was because her ancestors were British. Yikes. Story 31, had a girl in my high school who legitimately believed she was an anime girl and was just born in the wrong body. She would listen to these subliminal become an anime girl YouTube videos. And everyone's name in San wore a schoolgirl outfit every day. I went to a public school and would sometimes say a random Japanese word or phrase because her brain wasn't fully accumulated to America. Needless to say, she was a fully white girl from the Midwest. Story 32, there's a regular customer where I work who I like to call midlife crisis. She's in her late 30s, early 40s, and she acts sort of like a ditzy blonde character from a high school rom-com. And it pisses me off so much, especially since she is also a chronic complainer who doesn't leave until you sort out her trivial issue of the day. Story 33, Tim, who in 2007 dressed like he was hosting a Nickelodeon game show in 1994, was always around. He thought it was shtick, but he would flip your words around on you. The Yankees are your team, huh? What do you own the Yankees? Did that not stop? Finally, someone asked if he was 7 years old and knew how to talk like an adult. Tim then disappeared faster than Drax at the end of Infinity War. 12 years, and I haven't seen him since. Story 34, people who act and talk about being depressed because it's the only personality trait they can come up with, even if it means self-harm for attention. Why is depression and anxiety so romanticized? Story 35, this was in high school. She was noisy. She sneezed inhumanly loud, like so loud, shrieking you could hear her from another classroom. There was no way she wasn't doing it on purpose to seem quirky. She also fake laughed really loudly and made annoying noises all the time, like squeaking her shoes or mouth popping like a drag queen over and over and over again. She was so embarrassing to be around, but I had to put up with it for 2 years because I was too nice to tell her to cut it out. We all put up with her because we were afraid she might hurt herself if we didn't. Everyone hated her, but if she had just been herself and stopped trying to constantly seem unique, people would have actually liked her. Story 36, there was this shirt that was recommended to me while browsing merch online that said people who don't like anime aren't real and should not be trusted. I viscerally cringed thinking who would actually wear this shirt. Well, me BC Christmas time rolls around, and my older sister who knows I like anime bought me that same shirt. She said that Amazon messed up her order with the size and contacted them. And instead of a refund, they just sent her another shirt. So now I have 2 of them, and I had to pretend I love them. I never wear them in public, but sometimes I use them as a pajama shirt or a shirt for when I add color to my hair. Story 37, my best friend in high school used to like to pretend she was clumsy. She would basically fall around all the time on purpose, thinking it was cute. It always annoyed me because being a chronically clumsy person, I'd never been proud of bumping my head in public, tripping in front of hundreds of students, breaking my ankle on my friend's birthday party, breaking my big toe, stubbing it on my carpet at my own sleepover, etc. It's embarrassing. There are moments that have kept me up at night for as long as I can remember. Her boyfriend at the time mentioned in passing that she was having a clumsy day, and from that point on, she was dizzily tripping every chance she got and saying it was because she was so clumsy. I pointed it out to a few people. We started not reacting to it, and it miraculously stopped. Story 38, myself. I did Naruto hand signs in PE at school when I was younger and pretended to know Japanese. As you can probably imagine, I had loads of friends. Story 39, I know someone that is a habitual funeral goer. Anytime someone remotely affiliated with them passes, especially in the town we live in, they're all over social media proclaiming how devastated they are and how close they were to the person. More annoying is repeating the same story over and over about their one interaction with them or whatever, like tries to get super close with the family at the time and then trails off after the hype from the death is over. Story 40, this one's about myself. I went through scene phase 11 to 14. I was never that well liked in grade school, probably because I was judgy, bossy, and just not really a nice person to certain people. I wanted a reason to turn that dislike into an identity of sorts. So I cut my hair with a razor, got blonde bangs, and wore fluffy neon skirts over skinny jeans and screamo band tees every day. I did everything in my power. Parents wouldn't let me pierce myself or dye my hair unnatural colors to be as different as possible, even though there were like 10 other emos at my school. By the way, I wasn't even the cool kind of scene kid. I was the type of scene that just looked like I was just trying really hard to be one. I get a good laugh looking at pictures from back then now, and honestly, all the emo kids were really sweet and taught me how to be a better person. We're still all very alternative or hipsters now, so I guess it really wasn't a phase, mom, lol. Story 41, I was talking to a classmate on the bus, and she hauled out her sketchbook to show me her original character, which was a bear that vomits corpses. She related all of this to me in a very loud and carrying voice. Story 42, this one girl in my high school would accidentally laugh so hard she'd fall out her chair. It started when it happened once in class as a real accident and was funny, but when it started happening every other day and in multiple class periods, it got old real quick. Story 43, there's a lady at my church who is 31, obese, and dresses in bodycon dresses every day. She's the mother of 5 horribly neglected children of 5 different dads. You would think she was 14 with the way she behaves. She is loud. She fake laughs at the top of her lungs. She shrieks hugs at people and then glomps them. I said no to her on Saturday after she announced I needed to beat church at 7:30 a.m. to help out church starts at 9:30, and I arrive at 8 a.m. every week, and she had a complete meltdown. It was like she interpreted no as I hate you, and I'm going to turn everyone against you. She believes she is some kind of R&B queen and loudly sings each hymn in church as though we're side to side by Ariana Grande. I'll admit, this woman is a talented singer and musician, but it's inappropriate. Our church is a quiet, quaint church, and when our priest preaches, we are usually silent. She likes to cry out, yeah, and amen, and claps her hands during the sermon, which is both distracting and annoying. She and her family, her mother and father, also attend the church, have said they want to turn the church into a gospel choir because they love that Negro music. They have completely adopted African-American culture into their lives and want to inject it into the church too. They believe African-American culture makes them interesting in an underground kind of way, and they seem to think that by showing it off this way, they are enlightening the rest of the congregation. They have bombarded the church's Facebook page with videos of gospel choirs and gospel churches, and each time they act like they're presenting us with an incredible rare treat. Bo one is impressed. The videos don't get any likes or any comments. But the most irritating thing is this girl and her family aren't even black. Story 44. I was in a work placement program a few years ago. There was a lady there named Karen who always had to be the center of attention. Another of the attendees, a girl named Jade, had diabetes. Jade, during much, had to check her blood sugar. Karen immediately had to ask what was going on and was like, oh, I've been feeling sick too. I might be diabetic. Lo and behold, guess who has a full diabetes blood monitoring gauge the next day and simply must check her sugars at least once a lesson? Karen. Of course, they were always fine. She insisted she saw a doctor who told her she was diabetic, but it was obvious bullshit. Drinking bleach, I'm amazed he didn't end up in hospital. Story 45. So this guy in my final year class of game development would go to the library at the most busy hours with his laptop and start to pretend code in front of other girls and show off his below average games. How do I know this? He was trying to impress one of the girls that happened to be good friends with me. Now the best part is that he was using this. She was a comp science major and did her interning, I think, at Google as a security engineer. Story 46. This girl in my school wears those dark fingerless gloves up to her elbows, black lipstick, dark eyeliner, and writes MCR on her arm every day and says how she hates everyone and complains that girls these days are all clones. Story 47. In high school, my husband had a girl that he used to ride the bus with before he had his driver's license. She used to sit and stare at him every day, and he would never look at her. Then one day, he decided to ask how her day was. The next day, she got on the bus, and she insisted she sit with him. He thought that she was just lonely, so he said okay. She pulled out a necklace with a vial on it and started playing with it. She smiled at him and told him it was a vial of her blood and asked if he would make one for her. He got so scared that he decided the best plan of action was to stare straight forward and act like he couldn't see her in his peripheral vision until they got to school. He started asking one of his friends who had a driver's license to bring him to school from then on. Story 48. Guy in my college often comes into school in drag, which is fine, until he came in wearing a full latex bodysuit, the kind with only eye holes and zipper on a mouth, and a large but stylish top hat. Story 49. A girl I once knew at school in an extracurricular sport club was pretty out there. Among other things, she once leapt on my back out of nowhere. Thank goodness we were on padded flooring. Though the real kicker was when she once during a practice, completely out of nowhere, in public with other people right there, just asked me hypernexus, what's your fetish, deflected the out of answering that. Story 50. A girl in my HS would alternate between 3 costumes each week, a cowboy hat and boots, cat ears and tail, and a cape and smeared red lipstick. As much as I cringed, I secretly questioned whether she was all there, or she had a rough home life. Story 51. When someone brags about how little they cry, like, it's a lot healthier to deal with your emotions by showing them than to get drunk or high to ignore the problem, but whatever you're the mature, cool one, ugh. Story 52. There's a young woman who works at a local music store, band instruments, lessons, etc. She is one of these over-solicitous, superficially over-the-top chirpy and happy, but wore metal filigreed ear covers that were pointy like elf ears. She also wore elf shoes. I suppose there are worse things, but literally nothing out of her mouth can be taken seriously. Story 53. This girl just up and decided to have an Australian accent. She grew up somewhere in the Midwest. She didn't think she fit in LA, so she decided to have an Australian accent, so people would find her interesting. Strangely enough, she didn't claim to be from Australia. Just told people she liked the Australian accent, so she'll be speaking with an Australian accent from then on. She committed for at least a whole year. Story 54. A guy I know moved to Austin Texas from MS and immediately shaved half of his head and dyed the other half neon-looking colors along with his scraggly facial hair. He changes the color every month. He also says, like, I don't expect people to relate, but being from Austin, Texas, blah, blah, blah. Newsflash, you aren't from TX. Story 55, I used to have a coworker who fakes tripping all the time, especially after meeting someone new. I was a supervisor, so I would introduce him to employees and customers from time to time, and within minutes he would act like he nearly tripped and make a laugh about it. He's 45-year-old at the time. Story 56, in one of my college classes, there was this trans guy who is what I imagine the physical manifestation of a Tumblr blog would be like. He dressed in all flashy colors and dyed his hair green. I remember once hearing him brag about how he didn't tolerate cis-whittle male hetero nonsense like this was some major accomplishment. If ID had a box of cookies at the time, I would have given him one. Clearly he wanted it bad. Story 57, a freshman girl in my college that wore huge headphones and skip danced instead of walked. I always felt she was trying to be a character because she saw in college movies or something. The thing is, my college wasn't like that. It was downtown in a big city and very spread out. Not a traditional college campus like you would see on TV movies at all. People also didn't have the college movie mentality because guess what? It was real life. A professor called her Tiny Dancer, and we all knew who she was referring to because she was the only one out of tens of thousands trying to be quirky on purpose. Story 58, ex-girlfriend of mine, used to love building her ego up about how she was so much different than other girls. It came to a point where she was flaunting how cultured and tolerant she was that she was dating a Mexican. It got so bad that some of her coworkers and friends didn't even know my name. They just called me so an SOS Mexican boyfriend. The worst part is I've never once in my life been considered Mexican. I'm third generation and half German. Never not been an American. Story 59, people pretending to be autistic. You can tell who is and who isn't by watching them when they think nobody is looking. Their weird postures and fake stimming stop. When you're autistic, those things continue regardless because they're kind of unconscious until somebody makes you notice them, like blinking or breathing. At least, that's how my weird body postures and stims are for me. I won't say I'm speaking for how all autistic people experience it. Someone who's faking will unconsciously stop those things because they think nobody is watching. I don't care if people want to play with spinners, but pretending to be autistic as if that's the requirement to have them annoys the out of me. Story 60, my little brother pulled the drawers out from under his twin bed and put his mattress underneath so he could sleep in it like a coffin. He wanted to be a vampire so bad. He was 13 to 14 at the time. Story 61, my sister-in-law pretended her daughter was autistic and her son was deaf so she could get preferential treatment. And what a strong mother you are, pats on the back. Story 62, morbidly obese people with funky, quirky, downright odd hairstyles. I'm a short dash. I'm never going to be any higher than 5'5". So be it. However, I'll do my best to stay trim because you do the best you can with what you got. By the way, if you're obese, overweight, etc., working on it, I have total respect for you. I've been where you've been, and I totally respect your courage and attitude. Story 63, this girl from my high school who everyone loved BC. She was so edgy, would make up blatantly untrue stories. Or stories that actually just made her look bad. Unfortunately, nobody seemed to care. One of the stories was that she said a bunch of horrible, sacrilegious stuff about Jesus to her 5-year-old cousins because religion sucks. Great job terrifying a bunch of children. I guess the other thing was that she claimed her friend left the front portion of their car on her lawn and didn't realize it until she got home. Like really, the entire front of the car, including the engine. It turned out in reality that the bumper or a small part of the bumper had fallen off, but the friend realized it immediately. But as she was telling the story, everyone was like, whoa, that's crazy. No way. Story 64, late to the thread, but at my high school, there was a kid who would wear a Webkinz tree frog on his head like a hat every single day, his entire high school career without fail. We all call him Frog Guy, so I guess whatever he was trying to do worked. Story 65, a girl I used to work who just loved to argue and had an opinion on everything which she treated as fact. For instance, AFL players, soccer players, rugby players, etc. are not professional athletes. Don't even begin to insult her intelligence by calling them professional athletes. You can only call yourself a professional athlete if you went to the Olympics. Anyone else is just someone who plays sports and gets paid and has managers and supporters and clubs. Arg. Story 66, kid I went to high school with and worked with. He wore his McDonald's manager outfit to school every day. One day, he asked me what I got on my SATs. I didn't know, and asked if he had received his score. Said he got a perfect 900 in all 3 categories. I asked him, isn't the best you could do like a 2400? Yes, he replied. So how did you get 2700? His literal answer, not even kidding, well, I did so good on the test that they didn't have a bracket for me. So they gave me 300 extra points, It was cleared by the government, so they could fast-track me into a covert spy ops. But I turned that down to learn ninjutsu from my uncle, who's a 12th degree black belt out in South Africa. Ugh. Story 67, this one girl. I went to high school with nonstop spams her Facebook with her drawings and anime posts. I wouldn't have a problem with that if it weren't for the fact that during high school, she would always tell me I was childish or weird because girls shouldn't like video games or that I shouldn't be drawing anime characters. Edit rephrase my comment. Didn't like how I worded it before. Story 68, does I'm not like other girls, like I have tons of guy friends and I play video games, and different from most of the girls count. Like not only do those chicks then proceed to be like all the other girls, saying that is something that most girls who want to be different say. Golly, if I had a nickel for every time, I tell you I'd have a big OL jar of nickels. Story 69, I was at NYCC 2 years ago and sat in for part of the Steven Universe panel. Cause I arrived early for the panel, I really wanted to see. I knew nothing about Steven Universe, but after a while learned that it was a cartoon that talked a lot about acceptance of people, regardless of their gender or sexuality at least. That's what I think it is, through the adventures of a curly-haired boy and a group of primary colored people who are apparently living gems. During the QA with the creator, one person asked a question along the lines of how much she appreciated the cartoon promoting acceptance of LGBTQ people and wanted to know what a boring cisgender heterosexual person like her could do. I remember going, what? And Rebecca Sugar going silent before trying to address the boring cisgender heterosexual thing, explaining that just because someone was cisgendered and heterosexual, it doesn't mean they're boring. Story 70, probably not the best one on here, but there's this girl in my class who will constantly walk in and say things along the lines of OH great. There's an empty corner for me to sit in because I'm super antisocial. Yes, I carry a tennis ball in my backpack because I'm just that weird. Story 71, if anyone at all remembers the Neopets online messenger board forum. That was all the cringe you could ask for in one sad package. I was one of the cool and popular users. As ashamed as I am to say it, my username PopexSexBenedict. Story 72, this one girl I went to school with never wore anything weird. She just claimed to have had several things happen to her, or she had all these awesome material things. For instance, one day, in 8th grade art class, completely out of the blue, she informs me she's dating a hot 18-year-old model from Florida who has a twin brother in love with me. She supposedly talked about me to her boyfriend so much that his brother fell in love with me. An 18-year-old in love with a 13-year-old. He had my name tattooed on his chest, and he had picked out a ring. She kept this going all year, told me he was coming to visit and that I should come spend the night, and we would double date, blah, blah, blah. Then the following year, she insisted she had 2 kids already, said she got pregnant at 12 with her first, and then got pregnant again sometime in December, and had the baby over the summer. Yeah, okay. She married some dude with 5 kids, and had 2 more by him. In true white trash fashion, they moved to Florida. Story 73, people uploading their own pictures of landscapes to Instagram, and then captioning a profound quote. People uploading online photos of the books they read, and like to show off how much they like reading. Story 74, people who go out of their way to insist they've just created the most awesome magic combo nobody else has ever come up with, despite any single evidence to the contrary. Story 75, Ryan was special. He always tried his absolute hardest to imitate someone who is either popular or gets a lot of attention. My God, I've been trying to forget him for 3 years, and here I am. Some stuff he did said, he had 70 HD, get it. ADHD sounds like ADHD, honestly just a retard. Always puts Asian jokes because he's Chinese. His Instagram names for the past 5 years have been like Chingy Chonga Wong, Beware the Dumpling Man, or like Sucky Sucky $5, and he makes fun of himself on YT and always brags about how much he's matured the past year. Then 5 seconds after he's back to his 3rd grade self. Story 76, holy. Stanford has this look at us we are nerds shtick happening right now, where they actually sell fake broken tapes together glasses for school spirit. It's really dumb. Story 77, this girl that used to go to my school who had some kind of mental disorder every other day. It only really pissed me off when she said she had a certain illness, her words. Definitely not mine, funnily enough. She never had anything physical. I think she never said she had a physical illness because that would be visible while metal stuff can't. Story 78, I used to be a cringy piece of honestly. I would refuse to listen to music that I considered mainstream cause that would be too basic, and I didn't want to like what everyone else liked to be different. Some top hits are bangers. I actually grew the up and met a cool friend who made me realize that there's nothing wrong liking a song if it's a good song, no matter if it's popular, unpopular, not the genre you usually listen to, etc. I was a dumb teen, haha. It helped me to be less of a pretentious to everyone who didn't share my music taste. That was so cringy that key Portland weird sign in the Portlandia intro. Story 79. She showed up to a got viewing party for the season finale in a full Daenerys costume. It was not a costume party or themed in any way, just regular people in regular clothing watching the show. I'd argue the more cringe-inducing bit is that she then acted put out anytime anyone recognized her. Because of that, I really can't stand people who actively seek attention and then act like they don't want any. This other clown works at a bar I frequent. He's the living embodiment of this. So it's hard to know where to start, but the one that's probably the most consistently irritating is his prideful, smug, self-congratulatory announcement that he hasn't seen whatever popular movie or show everyone else is chattering about, as if not being caught up on whatever is big in pop culture is some kind of merit. The reality is it just stalls the conversation and gives us all one less thing to possibly relate to him about. I have an ex, she has borderline personality disorder. So she has a ton of these, and I still run into her on occasion curse of being from a small town. The most annoying one to me is the affected, over-the-top, sounds like Pac-Man dying laugh she has developed over the last decade or so. It's so loud and obnoxious that anyone who has been in the same room as her can identify her over it all part of her plan, and it's even more irritating when you know it's a relatively new development.